Hi, welcome to a new Dawn podcast. I'm Dawn, and so today I introduce a couple of my buddies. One is Pastor Dave, and the other is my friend Doug Easton. Now, in this video, we're going to be reviewing some of Ray Comfort's video. The link will be in the description. The question is this guy demon possessed? Or is it a D.I.D or an alter personality? Or is he just faking it to get out of talking to Ray Comfort? So, and the other thing is we're also going to go into the creation of Dungeons and Dragons. Pastor Dave used to work in the gaming industry and that sort of thing. He worked on Dungeons and Dragons, and he worked on Magic the Gathering and some other things. So I hope you enjoy it. Please post your questions below and we will answer them. So talk to you later. So the video, I wanted to share that portion of it to show what we were talking about in it. Because there's a couple things there.
That's Kevin. I have not. I'm Cord.
Cool. Is it really this demon Cord? And is Cord just a made up name for a demon that the D&D creators use? That's my other question. My other thought on it was, is it a demon or is he suffering from D.I.D, which is Dissociative Identity Disorder, which used to be called Multiple Personality Disorder? Was it maybe an alter? I mean, I love Ray Comfort and I trust him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe it didn't come across like a demon, but how is a demon supposed to come across, right? The guy says his real name is Kevin. He says, "Well, I'm not Kevin. I'm Cord."
Let's go back to the Ten Commandments, Kevin. Have you ever stolen something in your whole life, even if it's small?
I'm not Kevin. I'm Cord. I'm not Kevin anymore. Do you understand?
What does that mean?
I have never stolen anything.
So you're not Kevin anymore. What do I call you then if you're not Kevin?
Cord.
And then when Ray starts to go into the gospel with them, he's saying, well, have you ever sinned? Have you ever committed adultery with your eyes? And, his normal thing that he does when he shares the gospel. No, I haven't done any of that. He goes, oh, you've never looked at porn? No, I've never done any of that. Kevin has. I mean, demons straight up lie. Sure. That's why I don't understand some deliverance ministries where they try to have a conversation with the demon when you've got somebody who's demonized and, and try to get their name and all of that. You don't need to do that.
Right.
Just kick him out. That's all that needs to take place because they're extremely narcissistic and sure, you want to talk to me? And they'll tell you whatever you want to hear. And they're going to lie to you. Now, have you seen the movie Nefarious? Have either of you guys seen that yet? Oh, gosh, you need to watch it. I think it's free on Amazon right now.
Okay.
But this prisoner is possessed by it's more than a demon. I would say it's a principality. It's not just a demon. But he's telling this guy all these things, and somebody said what it should be called is If Demons Told the Truth. It was a really good movie. But the thing is demons they're not going to tell you the truth because they
Right.
lie all the time. That's
Yeah.
why there's no point in talking to them.
Also, I didn't say this particular one with cord and all that stuff, but sometimes people who are unbelievers will just yank your chain and fake it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I would trust that Ray Comfort would have a little bit of discernment rather than just announcing on YouTube and to the world that this guy has a demon. So I don't really know what to think about that part of it. I mean, I
Okay.
love him and I love his ministry. He really has a heart for people. Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So
It
he's
comes through.
amazing. Yeah.
When I first watched the first video with him, just doing evangelism, he came across as a trustworthy, nice person who's not trying
Hmm.
to put anything over on anybody. And
Right.
I would have responded well to that when I was an unbeliever.
Yeah,
'Cause
he's just a nice guy. Why wouldn't you want to talk to him? I mean,
yeah,
I've watched a lot of them, and some people are kind of weird, but they're I don't want to talk about the Bible, and but I think nowadays people are a little more open because of everything that's going on.
good. I
If
hope
they
so.
aren't, if they if they aren't completely blinded by the devil, which there are
Yeah,
those that are completely they don't see it. They don't see what we see.
that's right.
So, um it's yeah.
That's Kevin. I have not. I'm Cord.
Cord, if you don't already know, is a demon in the wildly popular role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons.
Cord is the barbaric god of power, both in nature and in creatures. Well-placed strikes of both lightning and blades bring great pleasure to the brawling god.
Someone rightly wrote in the comments, where do you guys think those games get their demon names? From reality. Real demons work through those games to keep you in darkness and not focusing on God. So the question arises, why are we seeing so much interest in the demonic realm? The Bible tells us why. Now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons.
Well, man. So after I watched the video, just to address the video, yes. Hi, my name's Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hey,
I play Dungeons and Dragons. Have been for a while. It's like I said, it's interesting, kind of paraphrasing, I
And
guess.
you should also mention that you're also a pastor because that's the
Yeah, because they just let anybody do it these days. And there used to be a test. But so when you said, "Hey, let's talk about Ray Comfort," in the video, it involved this gentleman named Cord. Of course, right off the get-go, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I like Ray too, man.
yeah.
Evangelism, the good test, Kurt Cameron for old people. It's been
Hmm.
around for a while. But I should put the caveats. As far as scripture is concerned, kind of paraphrasing something like, Matthew 12:30, you're either for me or against me.
Right.
There's no gray area on the fence.
Right.
You can't be on the fence. Okay. So obviously both within the church and without the church, there's a lot of spiritualism. To deal directly with what was happening with what I observed with Cord, I look at my personal experience with dealing with people who, for lack of a better term, have mental health issues. I
Hmm.
also kind of lean a little bit on my personal experience when it comes to spiritual things, which is not just limited to exorcisms, right? but even the gifts of the Holy Spirit, right?
Mhm.
Which there's plenty of discussion and debate on. Uh, and it is true that in our we used to say postmodern, we got scientific. You got to prove it, taste it, touch it, smell it, right? But
Mhm.
to be honest, even though we have computers and cell phones, uh, we are still very superstitious. One of the things I've actually been amazed about in the recent days uh, is that Joe Rogan has popped up in my feed. Uh, and I find that fascinating because I wasn't expecting Joe Rogan to be exploring spiritual
Yes.
things. Matter of fact,
I know. Everybody is like, what is happening?
Hmm.
he blipped the radar, I believe, so hard he got Greg Laurie's attention, and Laurie did a video in response
Yes.
to Joe Rogan's video.
Good, and your ethics are based on your own moral compass, and we all have one, and that's not necessarily true. We need Jesus. I think for real. Like Jesus, if you're thinking about coming back right now, now's a good time. Pretty
So
soon.
many people have done videos about him lately, Christian content creators. Yeah.
Well, because once you started noticing that they were having what I would call uh, a consideration, I'm not going to call it revival or awakening.
Right.
There's so many language out there. Words mean stuff, but for the sake of discussion, something is happening. Satan, when it comes to demonology, possession, and you guys have been around me for a while now, so I don't start with possession, impression, oppression, suppression, depression. There's a lot of essions before you finally get to possession, right?
Hmm.
And I believe for most of us who've experienced spiritual things or been around spiritual things, there is a process, right? And not just spiritually speaking, we've come a long way, I believe, in observing, medicine and mental health. There's always been a divide in the church between mental health or psychology and the church itself. And even that was like voodoo, right?
Hmm.
Freudian. But there was a time when we were using leeches and car batteries, yeah, for mental health. But you see, I think all along we were always casting out demons. We were casting out demons when there was possibly a biochemical disorder.
Hmm.
It's interesting that scripture encourages us that in the life to come, we get a new mind and a new body. And
Right.
as we get older, we really start to appreciate that idea of a new mind and a new body, especially with what I've done to my body and my mind. And and so when I was listening to Kevin and I was listening to Cord,
Hmm.
uh, again, I'm reminded not only of what Scripture says, but I'm also reminded of my experience in areas as a pastor in both spiritual things, demonic,
Hmm.
supernatural, even within the church, biblical gifts.
Hmm.
But I'm also aware, again, of my time in street ministry with mentally ill, drug addicted, people that are really hurting,
Yeah.
bipolar, schizoid affective disorder.
Hmm.
Uh, but, so
That was what I was saying about the DID, that maybe
yeah.
it's possibly a dissociative identity disorder, that his alter took over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
Well, is that even a real thing?
yes. Oh,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. We're going to come back quick on this. I can give you an example. Uh, and that is we had the opportunity, we were gathering, and in comes the door about a 65-year-old homeless female. Uh, and she saw that we were talking about the Bible, and she did address me. She goes, "You're the pastor?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "My name's Mary. Do you know what Mary means in the Bible?" And I looked at her and I said, "You mean Mara? You mean bitter?" Yeah. Now, I'm gonna
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you this. Her name wasn't Mary,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
but this is the name that she adopted with all that understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
The definition of the name, because names mean stuff,
Yes.
right? And it's not like y'all got to Google this or anything, but chord actually, there's a meaning, there's an origin to the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and again, if we want to talk about, D&D and where that comes from, we can. You know, when I was involved in the gaming industry, and again, adventure gaming industry, so Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the story about when I got my job and I moved back to the Midwest. I went to church and they asked me, "What do you do?" I do game design, and
Go.
they're like, "Oh, wow, what type?" "Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering."
Yeah.
"Oh, you're a Satanist." Yeah, right off the bat. I go to work on Monday. They're like, "What'd you do this weekend?" "I went to church." "Oh no, you're a Christian." So I really had no friends because, to be honest, the Hobbit hadn't come out in movie theaters yet.
Right.
Tolkien
Right.
wasn't cool. C.S. Lewis wasn't
Right.
cool. But if you're interested, and again, if there's comments on, I'm sure this is going to not turn out so hot. A long time ago in a land far away, there was a minister by the name of George MacDonald.
Mhm.
And George MacDonald wrote Christian fairy tales in a time when that's not cool, man. That's like Brother Grimm. But yet, it was a romantic period in poetry. And so he began to use it as a metaphor. And just by the way, for what it's worth, Dungeons and Dragons owns its existence to Tolkien,
Mm.
right? To be honest, you have to go back to H.G. Wells, uh, wanting to demonstrate the futility of war, and to demonstrate that, he wrote a game called Little Wars, and it was popular with children, but he wasn't able to demonstrate the futility again of mass genocide and of world war. Uh, and of course, Tolkien wrote The Hobbit and was friends with C.S. Lewis. They were a group called the Inklings. And they were inspired by this pastor, George MacDonald, and their writing metaphor. And so, to be honest, the dragon in Dungeons and Dragons is the dragon that we have in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is the source material for their writing. So, back to Mary. Mary, we discovered, had a break and was experiencing what we call psychoses. So confused. And so, yes, she had what some might even call multiple personality. It was like she spoke in code. She would use lyrics from songs,
That's
and it was
helpful.
very repetitive. And there she was wandering around. And of course, defense mechanisms, disassociation, confabulation, hallucination,
Right.
all these fancy words, which are things that we can observe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that sometimes we experience mental health because of the stress and the pain of living in this world and trauma. And now we believe in things like PTSD because we've seen it, we've observed it. Men have gone off to fight wars. And not even that you have to go fight a war for these things to happen, but to see
Yeah.
things and experience things, especially in a fallen world, a world that has been so affected and permeated by sin. uh, yeah, it hurts. And again, that's without getting into drugs, or as we like to say, pharmakia,
Mm.
right? Also translated
And
source.
those people that suffer from those things and I speak from experience, will get into drugs and pharmakia.
All that to say, Kevin Cord, names
Mhm.
are really important. Mary chose a biblical name, so she obviously knew the Bible because she was hurting. She was bitter. I'm sure I could have answered differently. I believe it was the Lord that gave me discernment, that and her aggressive nature, because she was mad. Proverbs 22:1 uh, talks about having a good name. It just means that a name is important, right? Having a good name is desirable. Poor Mary picked a bad name, right? Uh,
Did she pick that name on purpose?
I believe so. I believe it
Yeah.
Mara,
was
do you think she picked it
bitter.
on purpose?
Yeah, because she smiled when I told her it
Because
meant
it,
bitter.
okay.
You want people to care, you don't want to be used again. You want to have a good reputation. The bottom line is that Kevin, right, picked Cord, and Cord was his alter ego, right? I do believe that. I believe that if you look back, Cord's origin, it's I guess they would say it's German, Polish, Prussia, right? Old German, right? That's a real name, not just D&D. I appreciate the people who said D&D. And yeah, it was made up for D&D, right?
Okay.
It,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Now you're working.
yes. So the name has meaning because all names have meaning,
Hmm.
right? And so I believe that Kevin was deflecting, right?
Right.
Because he couldn't deal with it. Now, why can't he deal with it? That's complicated.
That could be a lot of
There's
things.
a lot. But again, I'd like to pray for his healing as much as I'd like to pray for the casting out of demons, which is a second issue because
Mm.
Ray had to address it. Remember, the comments were so powerful that Ray responded by making another video
Oh.
because he had to address why didn't we cast out the demons?
Right.
And
Maybe it
again,
wasn't
that
demon.
that was because his belief is to cast out the demons would have hurt Kevin because
Mhm.
Kevin wasn't prepared to accept Christ.
Right. It would have
Which
left an empty house
empty house, and he would have returned, this being Cord, with
and
seven
all
of
his
his
buddies.
buddies, and it would have
Yes.
been worse than before. And
Yeah.
That's if it
that
was a demon.
that's technically a right answer to the measure of faith, right? I get it. Um, but it's interesting that we're in this dialogue, right? Which is taking us away from the potential that Kevin's got mental health issues. We've left we've left Kevin high and dry. Okay. So this is
Yeah.
complicated because there's a lot of moving parts. And poor Kevin, if he is suffering mental health issues, or if there is addiction there, or if there's anything going, again, impression, suppression, oppression, depression, possession. We live in a world today where, to be honest, we say, Satan's hiding behind a bush. Satan don't gotta hide nowhere.
He's
He
not hiding.
he not hiding, because he doesn't have to.
Mm-mm.
He's the renter. This is the period of time where he gets to run amok, and
Mhm.
I think he's doing his job really well. It's funny when Jesus describes, they say, well, you healed and or cast out demons, uh, and they called him Satan, right? Beelzebub, and it's like,
Beelzebub, yeah.
why would I do that? Right?
Right.
That would be the downfall of my rulership, my kingdom. Matter of fact, you're either for me or against me. It's the same Matthew 12.
Mhm.
The reality is that they have been allowed this time. Which is a
Yes.
different theological discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And while we are enduring this time, and the reason why we talk about time is time has been given for people to be saved, to figure it out.
Right.
Uh, and so and this is kind of another observation. See, there was so much in this video because even
Yeah.
the concept, as you mentioned, well, you know his name, cast him out. What is this obsession with
I,
knowing the demon's name? So if you look at that, you might discover that that tradition sneaks in, right? That's more,
yeah.
right? And like you said, I
Well, I
would,
think people get that from when Jesus asked the Gadarene demoniac
yeah,
the demons, and they said we are legion.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
It,
don't think we
it's
don't
not,
need to know their
it's
names.
not a
We don't need to know
theology,
their names. It
not a
doesn't matter.
theology, not a doctrine.
Yeah.
Michael did not rail accusation against Satan when
No.
contending with right.
He
So,
said just
but
the
if you
Lord
would like to
rebuke
sit
you.
here and play checkers with a demon, he's totally up for it,
Uh-huh.
right?
And
Again,
you will
we're
lose.
supposed to resist. We're in this situation because we didn't resist.
Exactly.
Okay, so we do focus on having to address the world and everything going on to the world, right? And
Right.
I do like it when we just kind of, for lack of a better term, read the Bible. If we just
Yes,
would
I
read the
agree.
Bible, we would see that we have a lot in common with the ancient world
Yes, there's nothing new.
No.
under the
There
sun.
is,
I appreciate what Ray has done, right? This is no knock on Ray.
oh, absolutely not.
I
Absolutely not.
but I realize I got
He's
a heart
awesome.
for Kevin slash Cord
Yeah. Yeah.
because of my experience. And I also know too that I don't want to say I operate in a gray zone, but I have a liberty still to address these things, especially the narrative of Dungeons and Dragons,
Hmm.
uh, because as a tool, as a narrative, I would like to redeem the time. I'd like
Right.
again, when I would play or run games, we weren't glorifying evil. We were facing evil. Now, evil could win once in a while, but the belief is at the end, good triumphs.
Yes.
Why is that? Because again, it's a morality play. But where do we get our morals from? Well, hopefully we get our morals from understanding that God created us. We're not accidents. We didn't come from
Hmm.
monkeys. There's a purpose and a plan to life. Uh, and so that becomes important because our necessity, we have to be accountable. We have to be responsible. Again, I don't know what happened to Kevin. I don't even know what happened to Mary, right?
Yeah.
But that accountability and that responsibility and really the usury,
Hmm.
loving favor. They did not receive loving favor,
Hmm.
right? Whatever favor they received, it wasn't love. They were taken advantage of.
Right.
They were hurt. They were abused. They were mistreated. It was
Yes.
it was traumatic. And I will say this to the church out there for what it's worth. This deal of mental health, right? And maybe to a degree now spiritualism, when we look at what's going on in the world today, uh, we have not addressed the elephant in the room. I mean, now, especially here in the United States, we're messed up. We've seen too much just on television, right?
Hmm.
We're experiencing too much. We are saturated, we are overloaded. Uh, Children are not processing with confusion. I don't even have to address this, right? We get it. Their confusion is rampant.
Hmm.
And now in church, we used to just have to deal with some children that had autism, and the church didn't even know how to deal with that. Now I got bipolar, like I said, schizoid affective disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and just to bury your head in the sand and just say that stuff doesn't exist, no, that's not accurate either.
Mm-hmm.
But what will come to church? What's going to come through the doors? What are they dealing with? Where are they coming from? And we might see, spiritually speaking, that we might have to see that extreme again, where when Jesus came, not only did he heal the sick, but he had to cast out demons because of the partnership that had been forged in a world with very few, just morally bankrupt, right? Which is where we see that union taking place. So we might as well start understanding what it is that we're dealing with. And then, of course, trust the Lord and move forward. So that's my stream of consciousness.
Well, that's pretty much the gist of it. Dave and his stream of consciousness. That's how he is. He leads our Bible study, and you just got a taste of what our Bible studies are like. If you live in the Placer County area and want to come to one of our Bible studies, get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me at a new dawn podcast at gmail.com. And God bless you. If you don't know Jesus, I know he's waiting to hear from you. And if you have any questions about that, please contact me. So, love you guys. Thank you so much. Share this with your friends if you liked it. I'm still new to this. If there's something you don't like or you think I can improve on, I take constructive criticism. So, talk to you later. Bye-bye.